I'm your host, Amtaj Kar, and this is We Went to Miami. Hello, Miami alumni. I am very excited to share a very special guest today, the one, the only, Vada Stephens. Here's a little bit about Vada. Vada is a graduate of Miami University, former two-time congressional intern, and later selected as a White House communications intern for the Biden-Harris administration. Vada holds experience advocating for policy and legislative initiatives at both the federal and state levels of government. If you thought that was impressive, currently he serves as a chief of staff to the president of the Hamilton County Board of Commissioners. Currently, he serves as the chief of staff to the president of the Hamilton County Board of Commissioners, Alicia Reese, becoming the youngest in history to hold this position in the county's 200 years. Vada is working towards furthering his experience and understanding the legislative process while advocating for robust policy changes directly affecting 830,000 plus residents of Hamilton County. Not only that, but Veda, if I have this correct, you're involved with a university on the East Coast, right?
I am. Last year
Say
I
more
was,
about that. Yeah.
yeah, no, last year I was really lucky to have been selected as a Harvard Future Leaders in Law Fellow. I was one of 30 from across the world in the second cohort in the history of the fellowship. And it's really been an amazing journey thus far, really trying to level the playing field so that we have a greater number of professionals who are able to gain access into the legal field. And the administration there, as well as the folks in the Harvard Office of Community and Belonging, have been exceptional in providing us with wraparound LSAT tutoring to help us prepare for the law school admissions exam. They have also connected us with various deans and mentors and folks who have navigated the legal process. And we also get a really nice stipend. Money is always good to help you
100%.
as you continue to pursue your legal education. But super excited about it. I started in July and we're coming up on a year here soon of being a part of the fellowship, which is both in person and also virtual. So it's a bit of a hybrid model. So I did get to go to Cambridge and envelop all of the rich history. We went to New York to visit Paul Wise. For those that don't know, that's where the current minority leader, Hakeem Jeffries, used to work, and also former Attorney General Loretta Lynch works. And that firm actually funds the program. So we got to learn about big law and everything from contracts to mergers and acquisitions, and kind of get to see both sides of the coin, public service, but also corporate and private practice. So it's been an amazing opportunity.
I love that. And very intentionally, I did not mention the year you graduated because someone's going to hear all this and probably assume you're like mid to late 30s. Veda, would you enlighten our audience with what year you graduated and how old you are?
Yeah, so I graduated from uh, Miami University
Yeah.
in the spring of 22. And at this point, I will be 25 June. I believe that's when this will launch. So kind of a birthday surprise.
That's incredible and also just crazy. I mean, like I know sometimes when I hear my bio being read out loud, I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Hearing all of that and just talking right now about your Harvard experiences and sharing when you graduated. I mean, has the journey been crazy? And I mean, are you giving yourself your flowers with recognizing how like awesome and how young you are, but your journey's been robust to say the least?
Yeah, absolutely. I've always been a person who believes that in order to lead, you have to serve, right? And when you're serving, constantly giving, and pouring out to others and making sure that others have access to opportunity and resources, time flies. And,
Yeah.
it can be very difficult to self reflect and take a break to analyze the fact that, hey, we got that done, or hey, we delivered, or hey, the ball was moved forward in somebody's lives was changed and a difference was made because you're always on to the next. There are so many issues and so there's never a dull moment
Yeah.
because there's always somebody constantly in need of support and help. And I believe that, I've been purposed to sort of be that stopgap, the middleman, the bridge, the connector for people and make sure that they feel seen, they feel heard, and they know that somebody is there advocating for them. And so, as I said before, you have to serve, and in the serving, you get so much experience. And before you know it, things that didn't make sense start to click and the dots start to connect, and you're able to build on those early experiences.
I love that. And what stuck out to me most in your response just now was that you say like you've been given a purpose.
Yeah.
When did you know that? And like
Yeah.
how did you build upon it when you felt that calling?
Yeah. So, interestingly enough, I come from civil rights. And growing up, I was very much rooted in the church and in community. My grandfather is currently a bishop in Hamilton County in the Finneytown area.
That's
But
awesome.
before that, he served as a probations and corrections officer
Wow.
in Clark County. And then he also served at that time what they called the dean of the foster care agency and group home agency, and was very much rooted in making sure that folks who were involved in the criminal justice system had avenues to not bring them back there, but they had the support and services they needed to truly create better pathways for their future through employment, through education. And then my father is also a minister, but he's also very involved in the healthcare industry. And between him and my grandfather and my uncles also, they were union men. They built trucks for a living, UAW men in Springfield, Ohio. All of those great men that came before me early on just instilled this constant idea around giving back to the least of thee, whether it be in the church or community. It's one thing to talk about service and to talk about helping somebody and giving back to your neighbor, but it's another thing to go beyond the four walls of the church. And so growing up, I was always participating in the Martin Luther King rallies and participating in the food pantries and local soup kitchens, helping at the Cincinnati City Gospel Mission. And all of that really resonated with me because it showed me that, hey, I didn't have to be an elected official or a politician or somebody who has a title per se to get involved early on, but each of us have a responsibility and a duty to make a difference, to make a dent. And I believe that we're shaped by our experiences, our environment, and our education. And so for me, once I got to high school, I believe it was important for me to get involved, because how can you represent the people and advocate for the people and share in the people's struggle if you don't carry in on the lived experiences? And so I just believed very early on the calling of leadership was on my life and to be of service to somebody else. So I went to Princeton High School, Sharonville, Ohio. Really great time. And the thing I love about Princeton is that they really believe in college career readiness. And so our superintendent then, Tom Burton, was so pivotal in my life of even at the high school level, making sure that we had access to internships and fellowships and making sure that we understood the sky was truly the limit and that it takes a village to move things forward. And even if you're not interested in college, there's also vocational opportunities, skilled trades, apprenticeship. And so seeing the diversity of opportunity really interested me. And I've always been interested in law and the rule of law and folks being able to obtain justice, and the fact that the law can be utilized to hopefully part the Red Sea in disputes between folks within a given society. And so I was fascinated by that. And so through Princeton and through some of the networking early on, I got connected in a program called Swell, Summer Work Experience in Law. And the reason that program is great is because they connect the students to paid internships. And so you have to think, I grew up in Forest Park, Ohio. I'm riding like 2 metro buses downtown from Forest Park, which is the second largest city in Hamilton County, downtown to get to my internships at the courthouse, where I interned under a former judge, the Honorable Fanon Rucker, as well as Common Pleas Judge Alan Triggs. And in that role, I got to see immediately, wow, a lot of folks who look like me are on the opposite side
Yeah.
of the judicial system as it relates to being enveloped in all kinds of activities that honestly were a byproduct of a lack of education, a lack of access to jobs, a lack of a stable household. And so early on, I'm seeing representation and what that looks like in the judicial system, in the court system, the power of the law, and the fact that the judge holds authority to give freedom and to take away freedom, and how people find themselves in difficult situations. And so after that experience, I got to intern also at Strauss Troy, Attorneys at Law. I got to see the other side of what a full practice law firm looks like, everything from criminal law to real estate law. to tax law. And so, getting to see clients come in and have their disputes reconciled, and kind of getting both experiences. And that's been a constant theme in my journey thus far, even eventually going to Miami University. And I'm kind of fast forwarding here, but being on the Hill, I had the opportunity to eventually see everything except the Supreme Court, what the various chambers of government look like, and how, legislation is implemented, how legislation is executed from the House of Representatives to the Senate to the White House, the legislative, the executive branches. And so, but early on, I was getting both sides of it, from being in the municipal courts to seeing criminal law, from everything from misdemeanors to felony and civil matters to full practice law firms. I believe, it's important that you get as much experience as you can and soak in these diverse experiences so that you can be equipped to really have a good grasp and understanding down the road, down the future, to make an impact. And so, as you hear, I've had some incredible mentors, from judges to teachers to church family to community leaders, nonprofit leaders, public leaders, private leaders, who were instilling in me and showing me that, again, you don't have to wait until you have a title or till somebody recognizes greatness. No, you already are great. And you have to be able to press in to those talents and those gifts, and then align them with your areas of interest. And before you know it, as you said, Amatosh, the time flies. And you're
Yeah.
like, man, when did I have time to take a break? Because really, it no longer starts to feel like work. When you find your passion, when you find your calling, you found it when it no longer feels like a headache and an assignment. But you get back up every day, and you come back, and you grab the bull by the horns, and you give it your 110% best self.
I love that. And I mean, like, there's so much that I want to say about that. The first that made me giggle, and I did not know your dad was a minister, Veda, and I'm giggling because I'm a pastor's kid.
Oh my gosh.
Talk
You
about a
understand.
shared experience. Oh my God, absolutely. When you started talking about it, I was like, yeah, like that is experience. But I think what stood out to me the most was towards the end, you were like, it's understanding you were always great, right? And that a title or a position is helpful and, can be validating. But the fact of the matter is, like, you always had it in you. And I love that because I think something that one thing was very an experience that I definitely understood at Miami, but even in high school, very similar boat as you, is the quote of every child is one caring adult away from a
Yeah.
completely different life. And I love how openly you speak about, whether it's naming your superintendent from high school to the judges that you interned with from a young age, just recognizing the people that slowly became your village. And I'm sure inevitably are people now that are beaming with joy as you came back to Hamilton County and you're
Yeah.
doing incredible things. And like, I just love that thread, almost that invisible string of, I feel like it wasn't one moment where you realized this was your calling, but like, dare I say, like, your whole life you've been marinating and
Mhm.
the people around you had just reminded you of who you are and you've been able to run with it. And that, I don't know, it just like, it fills me with such warmth and joy to know that like that's how you got here. And it wasn't, some moment where you were like, man, the world sucks, which obviously it does, but like versus, man, I have so much power within me to make the world around me a better place. And like that, what a wonderful place to live in. And it seems like even now that's just the place you operate from. And that doesn't surprise me knowing you
Yeah.
to the extent I do.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It was always abundantly made clear to me growing up that, you're not really living a life worth living if you are not pouring into somebody else. And
Yeah.
oftentimes we're blessed to be a blessing to somebody else. God forbid you climb up the ladder only to kick it down. And
Yeah.
there are those that exist out there that look like us as people of color
Yeah.
that engage in that type of behavior. And it
Which is crazy.
frustrates me, because my hope would be that we would get in the room, get at the table, be a light, add perspective, and not forget where you came from. You talked about the power of the village, and it is so true that it takes a collective effort. And yes, it's frustrating. Yes, it's challenging. But the great thing about a mentor, and the great thing about folks that are investing in you, is that they often see more in you than you see in your own self. And
Yeah.
so I would encourage everybody to get a mentor and to grab hold of somebody very early on that you can align yourself and your purpose with.
I love that. And there's so many alumni that want to be that person for someone, but either they have never had one and they don't know how to go about it, or they have no idea how to open themselves to the opportunity to mentor. How have you done it? And if you had to like Veda's guide to mentoring 101, what would be in there?
Yeah, what I have found is a lot of the groups and organizations and in the field of work, obviously you will come across so many different people, regardless of age, background, gender, sex, demographics, and life affords so many different lessons and opportunities to teach or to lend perspective to others on the right path to take versus the wrong path, the snares and traps that lie ahead, and also making sure that they understand the skill sets and the gifts and talents that they have within them. I think for me, I use every opportunity that I receive as an opportunity to really enlighten in perspective and really make a dent in somebody's life. And I always promise myself to never leave a room the way I found it.
I love that.
And I think that is so important as it relates to relationships and interacting with one another. You should never meet a person having not left an unforgettable impression. And I do mean a positive one. That's how you really know you've connected. If you can honestly walk away saying, you know, I invested something, I left something behind that they hopefully can go on and make it better. Staying accessible is very important
I
as it
love
relates
that.
to mentorship. Um, we're not blessed, we're not given to live in an ivory tower or to carry around the haves and the have not complex. But half the time, connections don't happen because we don't avail ourselves to people. And when you begin to reflect and think about how you too were once lost, you too were once searching and in need, and you experienced the good and the bad. And sometimes I ask, like, why did I have to experience that? Well, you experienced it and you went through it to see what not to do. And that way you can go and help somebody else and lift somebody
Yep.
else up. So mentorship is very critical, is very important. And I try to be someone who seeks every opportunity to teach, every opportunity to also be accessible, but also recognizing mentorship is also a two-way street, right? Your mentee has something to teach you
Yes.
because life is a long journey full of learning ups and downs. And I know some people that are way older than me that still don't have it figured out as they tell me. And we're all, you know, on this ship together of trying to discover and learn who we are.
I love that. And, doing a callback to your previous answer and what I feel like has been a theme is, the concept of the village. And I think for us, our village was with a generation who also had villages. And while we have them, I feel like a lost art of our generation is becoming the village. And so, how do you be an active part of other people's villages? How are you showing up for your community beyond your day job, which truly isn't a day job versus at this point it is a lifestyle,
It's a
dare I say?
lifestyle. Yeah,
Yeah, but
it's funny you say that because myself and the commissioner we joke about that same thing in that I did a town hall a couple of weeks ago. We brought in the Ohio Legislative Black Caucus president. We brought in our different Southwest Ohio delegation state representatives and some of the local young politically engaged advocates in our community. And we were at the Urban League Center for Social Justice and engaged quite an incredible crowd to make sure that they understood the current legislation as well as the federal implications and how those things trickle down to the state level and impact everyday people. You cannot advocate except you know what's going on and be equipped with the tools to effectively advocate. And so this was an opportunity to educate and to serve as a sounding block and encourage people to, hey, know, write your representative, write your senator. Don't be afraid to go down to the legislature to give testimony. You're a taxpayer. This is the power that you have to lift your voice. But my point is, at the beginning of my remarks, I said, I serve as chief of staff for Hamilton County Commissioner Alicia Reese. And I said, but that's my day job. And then I caught myself and I said, wait a minute. No, this is really 24/7.
yeah,
You really are always on because, you know, people's lives don't stop. And so when you're an
Yeah.
ambassador and you're an advocate, you really are always on call at any given moment, and people are looking to you and their elected official whom they voted for to represent them. And a lot of times people forget that they're human too. Their staff is human.
100%.
And, you know, we also cannot pour from an empty cup. But at the same time, we recognize the great mantle and the responsibility to be an advocate. And a big percent of the job is just showing up, really not even saying nothing, but it's
Yeah.
showing up and letting
Just being
people
there.
know and see that you care. So that's funny to me because it absolutely is a lifestyle. Commissioner always tells me, state representative of hers from a couple of years ago, I always told her, you know, I love this stuff. I love this stuff. And he's like, to do this kind of work, you have to understand right away that it is a lifestyle.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Dad, when
100%.
I got time to party, when I got time to talk to my friends, you know, when I got time to woo-saw. And I do try to strike a balance. I do have hobbies for those that are wondering outside of all of that. But you asked about outside of the day job of being the chief of staff, which hopefully later on I'll get into what that role entails and what I do. But I also have made it a priority to be civically engaged and make sure that more people understand the power of their vote, which is very important to me. I joined an organization probably my sophomore or junior year of college at Miami University that was at the forefront of civics and community building. But not just anybody was running it, it's young black and brown folks who later on, many of them would go on to be in elected office, whether it's the current minority leader of the House, whether it's the current mayor of the second largest city in Hamilton County and the youngest mayor, whether it's the current chief of staff for the mayor of the city of Cincinnati. I
Speak
mean,
on it. I love
no
it.
rinky dink group. These are folks that believe and believed in community and wanted to make an investment and be on the front lines of uh, getting out the vote, of canvassing and door knocking and talking to voters about the issues that matter, and then being able to be the liaison between the people and their representative, letting them know here's the temperature, here's what people are saying, here's what people want to see, and here are the issues that most are important to people, but also engaging folks on the campus of Xavier University and the University of Cincinnati in the urban core, and getting those folks early on to be engaged and productive members of society. I serve as the president of the Southwest Ohio Young Black Democrats. And last year we had an amazing year. It was obviously a presidential year, a lot of high tension and nerves, and we were off to the races to November
Yeah.
to get the vote out and make sure that as many people could be a part of the process. And I'm proud to say we worked very diligently to register hundreds and hundreds of young people to vote from not only Cincinnati, but across the state of Ohio. We also launched a double check your ID campaign, which was centered around making sure that people understood that there were new changes to the Ohio
Yeah.
voter ID laws. You couldn't bring your utility bill, you couldn't bring your piece of mail to show your address or no, you had to have a state issued ID, and the names
Mm.
had to match what was ever in the voter registration system. Now, I always say, how can we talk about who you're going to vote for and voting down ballot if you don't even have the correct
If you
credentials
can't even vote, yeah.
to be able to vote in the first place? There were changes with the absentee ballot drop box. So we had to move quickly to educate folks on the
Mm.
change in time and the fact that now you had to sign a form similar to almost like an affidavit if you were turning in the ballot on behalf of somebody else. And you had to go in to do that process.
Mm.
So outside of work, I remain very much civically engaged and surrounded by young people who are not the leaders of tomorrow, but they're the leaders of the day. They're the ones in the trenches who are not afraid to organize a rally, not afraid to organize a canvassing activity, not afraid, as I just told you 2 weeks ago, to organize a town hall to make sure that we are educating the people, we're organizing the people, and we're mobilizing folks. And we are making sure that folks have agency. That's very important to me. It can feel so daunting to feel like nobody's listening to you. And sometimes, you know, even the students at Miami University may feel that way. But I assure you, between the student advocates, because I was a member of the Associate Student Government and on cabinet, and there are those in the administration that do believe in the students. They do care about students, and they do understand that our biggest hope is seeing a return on the investment, and that is all of those listening doing well,
Yeah.
succeeding, being successful. And so that's why I do what I do. I'm a member of the Greater Southwest Ohio Urban Young Professionals. I also serve in the community as a member of, which is a great project, the Cincinnati Black Music Walk of Fame Volunteer and Selection Committee,
That's
where
so
we are
cool.
making sure that musicians and artists get their just dues and recognized for their contributions to music. I have a music background. I went to
I
Miami.
have to interrupt to share. You have a relative who's quite musically inclined, correct?
Yes, yeah, yeah. I so on my mom's side of the family, my mother went to SCPA. That's the Cincinnati School for Performing Arts. So she's a singer. She directs the choir. She leads worship. Her father is Darnell Bristol. He was the lead singer of The Deal with L.A. Reid and Babyface in the
That's
'80s.
incredible.
And if y'all ever heard the song Two Occasions, go listen to it. That first opening introduction, that's my grandpa D. But then on my dad's side, whole family is from Springfield, Ohio. And so he and John Legend, the John Legend, John Stevens, are first cousins, my second cousin. My dad is also a prolific writer as well. And I sing, and growing up, yeah, the church and community and service was important, but music served as the soundtrack to the work and an escape of sorts, therapeutic. We may talk about this later, but one of my favorite classes at Miami University
We are gonna get to
was
this
the
later. Wait, you gotta save it. You
okay,
gotta save
okay,
it.
okay.
We will.
I'll,
I
I'll save
swear.
it. I'll save it. But to your point, I stay involved in the community also through music, through the arts. So we do have some fun as well.
No, and it made me laugh because you were like, "Fear not, I have hobbies," and then you talk about how civically you involved in it. And I was like, "Veda, that is not telling the people the hobbies." So I'm glad you mentioned your music, and I'm going to be conscious of your time and trying to hit some of those big things you want to hit. But I've got to ask before we hit to like what you actually do
Yeah,
in your beast of a job. Actually, you know what? Let's start with that, and I'm going to pivot because I feel like folks having a bigger picture of what you do will help inform this next. I was gonna ask you about burnout, but let's save that.
yeah,
But you
absolutely.
mentioned, yeah. Can you give the listeners a walkthrough? What do you do? What does being chief of staff mean?
Yeah, yeah. So it's interesting. I'm gonna back it up. I originally did not start as the chief of staff.
Okay,
I
I didn't
had
know
just
that.
I just had came off of an amazing internship through the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation, where I interned for uh, U.S. Representative Joyce Beatty of Ohio Congressional District 3.
Legend, yeah.
Legend. And the great thing about interning for her was that she not only was the and is the representative of Ohio District 3 in the U.S. House of Representatives, but she was also the chair of the Congressional Black Caucus.
That's
So
awesome.
I got to split my time between working in her office, serving the constituents of Ohio District 3, but also getting to engage and interact and prepare meetings at the U.S. Capitol every Wednesday with
Oh
the
wow.
other over 57 plus members of the Congressional Black Caucus, which many of you know, the great Shirley Chisholm was a founding member. And so after that time in DC, I was looking for jobs and got some amazing offers, but eventually made the decision to come back home. And one of my friends was transitioning out of Commissioner Reese's office as her legislative aide, and she had an opening. And what fascinated me was that this wasn't City Hall, but it was the County Commission, which is not as sexy as City Hall from the
No,
outside.
for
Everybody's
sure.
like, what is the County Commission? What do they do? And, for me, it was one thing to pass bills and work on legislation in DC and be in committee and the hustle and bustle of DC politics, how a bill becomes a law, everybody's seen Schoolhouse Rock.
Yeah.
They left out a lot, y'all. I just want to say that they didn't tell you when the House don't agree and the Senate don't agree, and then somebody's got an amendment, and then you could do like Cory Booker and hold the floor for
Yep.
25 hours. They didn't tell you all that at Schoolhouse Rock. But I long for Cincinnati. I was longing for home. I wanted to
Yeah.
be a part of building the community here. And even more importantly, getting other young people to realize that you could take your talents and invest them right here in the community that raised you. And so I turned down some offers, some really great offers to come back, work in the county commissioner's office, which I knew was countywide, which I knew would service all 49 municipalities, 830,000 people, the city of Cincinnati just being one of many cities within the
Yeah.
county. We would have a greater reach. But even more importantly, in DC, we have been really getting the word out and helping to deliver the American Rescue Plan dollars. Now, this is kind of during the pandemic, coming out of the pandemic, in which this was the first time that the American government had ever bailed out the American people. Normally, they bail out industries, Silicon Valley. But in this particular instance, they sent the money to the people. So I got to come back as a director of outreach and help connect the people to the
Mm.
resources on the ground level, grassroots level, where I'm talking to you on the phone, but now at Hamilton County, I'm on the ground. I get to see you and who I'm helping.
And I feel like that's where you
Eventually,
thrive.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm a talker and I like to think I have a good personality and I try to be winsome and help people and walk them through the process. But not too long after that, our chief of staff at the time transitioned out, took another job, took another opportunity. And the commissioner looks at me after maybe a year or so of working there and she's like, "Hey, I want to talk to you about something." And I'm like, "What?" And she's like, "Well, you've been doing a great job and you're a hard worker and you take initiative and you've really expanded our communication strategies here in this office and really are helping to serve as a vital liaison to the needs of our community. And I believe we're in lockstep as it relates to the agenda here in this office, which is a people-centric agenda. You mirror that. What would you say if I had asked you to be my chief of staff?" And I said, "Well, wait a minute. What does that mean? What does that entail? I'm gonna need a second. I might need to go pray and fast and then get back with you." And eventually, I, accepted the opportunity to transition in that role, as you pointed out earlier, taking on a system that is actually over 230 years old, where there was a time when if you didn't have the right color and you didn't have the
Yeah.
right letter behind your name, you weren't getting a job at Hamilton County. So much of that has changed. And so to be able to walk into this role as a young African American male who is the youngest chief of staff in the history of our county at the time, 22 years old, stepping into that role, like I said, I'll be 25. It was extraordinary. But the commissioner reinforced she did not extend that opportunity just because, but it was because she believed I brought the experience. She believed I brought the passion. She believed I brought the skill sets and understood the assignment that God had placed over my life at an early age. And I think in many ways, she probably also sees and saw a lot of herself. The commissioner started at 26, 27, serving on Cincinnati City Council. She's the
That's
youngest
awesome.
woman ever in the history till this day to serve on City Council. And she's had quite some experience. So she understands what it's like being young, navigating political
Yeah.
processes. And she told me, my concern is not can you do the job? She indicated, my concern is can you handle the pressure?
Yeah.
Because the job and all that comes with it, as you said, being the chief of staff is like, in my case, because I love politics, I love government, it's like your favorite song that never ends, your
Oh.
favorite tune that never ends. And it really teaches you how to manage up, manage down, and manage yourself. And so I'm also managing elected official, managing her calendar, managing her meetings. But at the same time, I'm also serving as a liaison between businesses, between community leaders, between nonprofits, public sector, and our constituents. I'm also serving as an administrator of policy and implementing initiatives in her projects, while at the same time making sure that these things are being messaged to community so that they know what we're doing. There's not a piece of legislation, resolution, or any project or initiative that does not touch my desk before it goes to her. I had one guy say, that dang Vada, I can't even get to the commissioner without going through him. And then when he saw that it was me, when he finally met who the chief of staff was, he was astonished because he probably had in his mind who he thought it was gonna be. And then here comes this little 4'2". No, I'm not really 4'2", but guy out the back room, and he's like, "You're the one I gotta speak to," and I'm like, "Well." And so I have many of those moments, but in a nutshell, I always tell people it's threefold: serving as a liaison between the commissioner and the constituents and the community, also helping to implement strategic communications efforts, and helping to serve as a leader and educating folks about the work that we're doing in the office, but also a worker bee implementing the initiatives and the policies and seeing to it that people's lives are made better. I get to sit in the passenger seat while the commissioner drives, right? And so it's been an amazing journey. The county commission, we're Hamilton County, we're the third largest county in Ohio. And I always liken the county to like McDonald's, and
Oh
that
wow.
McDonald's is a franchise, right? And Ohio has
Yeah.
88 counties. Well, all of the counties, like McDonald's restaurants, they don't all get to choose. I want to take seeds off the bun and I want to take that. No, you have to do it exactly like the headquarters and the franchise says.
Hmm.
Well, that's similar to the ORC, which also dictates all 88 counties. So we are an extension, administrative extension of the state of Ohio, where we service out state and federal grants and dollars to departments and agencies, everything from Jobs and Family Services, which is the safety net of the county, to the sheriff's office, to the Board of Elections, to also local nonprofits that are engaging folks on the ground level. The county commissioners oversee two stadiums on the riverfront, both Great American Ballpark and Paycor Stadium, and also get to do some really cool initiatives in our office. As I explained earlier, we're doing everything from investing in small businesses, launching the first small business office, to the first youth office to connect kids with summer jobs, to also the commissioner founded the Cincinnati Black Music Walk of Fame, which is celebrating Southwest Ohio musicians, African American artists who have really contributed to the music landscape of the world, and also helping people stay in their homes, serving
Yeah.
as that stopgap with property taxes, rental assistance. So we do a lot. It's a diverse menu of policy and issues. And as I said at the beginning of this, there is never a dull moment or a dull day. I don't know what a day will bring, but you always
Yeah.
have to stay
That's
ready
real.
so you don't have to get ready.
I love that. And for time's sake, being respectful of your time, I'm gonna hit you with a Miami rapid fire if you're okay with that.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. You're going back to campus. Where's the first place you're going?
I think I'm going to. I think I'm gonna say Skippers.
You know what? Skippers would also be my answer. Well, now I gotta ask, what's your Skippers order?
They when and like I was there years ago. They have like what's the equivalent of like cheese curds, like Wisconsin cheese curds. Like
The Mac
I'm a big
Bites.
fan.
They're incredible.
I'm a
And
big
what's
fan.
crazy is I see them in the bulk frozen pack and I don't care. They're incredible.
They are. I tune it out because something about what they doing in the kitchen is just different.
And you know what? It makes it taste better. I'll say it.
Yeah, it does.
I appreciate that. And you were trying to tell me this earlier, but now's your chance. Best class you took at Miami.
Intro to African American Music by
I
the
love that.
Dr. Tammy Kernodle, who is a legend. The thing I love about that class is it expanded my thinking about how music has always been in the backdrop of movement. When you think about Sam Cooke, A Change is Gonna Come, and pushing the civil rights movement, Nina Simone, Mississippi Goddamn, all of those songs served as the soundtrack to the civil rights movement, the women's suffrage movement, all of these great strides towards making our nation a better place. It was always coupled in proximity with music. And I think that's so powerful. The anthematic nature of music, even the songs of old, the worker songs, the spirituals, it has complemented movement. And
Yeah,
she really exposed me to that. And we had a great time. And I majored in English, so we did a lot of writing. And I
that's
got to do a
awesome.
lot of that as well in that class.
I love that. And I know Tammy well, so
Yeah,
I'm excited that she gets her flowers
I
through
gave
this
her a shout
episode.
out.
Yeah, I love it. One Miami tradition or Miami memory that still sticks with you today?
Let's see. I think one thing that I really enjoy as a hobby is roller skating.
I did not know that
And
about you.
yeah, I like roller skating. I can't do all the spins and the cool moves. I'm gonna hopefully learn when I get some time. But I always enjoy the Miami programming, and I think it was run in close proximity with our Cliff, their Greek life office, in partnership with the NHCP. But they always had a programming where they would be upstairs in Armstrong Student Center in the
The
pavilion
third
on the
floor, and they do a little
third
roll. Yeah.
floor. They cover everything with mats and roller skating, and it was like neon, glow in the dark, and everybody would come out.
Yep.
I just really enjoyed that, and I'd be out there like for hours just going around and really getting it.
I
So
have a vivid memory of like roller skating with the AKAs my senior year.
they're like, "Get out the way, get off the floor."
I'm like holding there, and yeah, you were probably like,
Yeah,
move.
yeah,
No, I love that. And like, that's a beautiful memory of just you doing your thing on the third floor of Armstrong, roller skating in neon
yeah,
lights.
yeah. Just a college kid letting off some steam in community, and they always did it like at the beginning of the year, so it was a great opportunity for
Yeah,
new freshman incoming students to connect.
I love that. And then final Miami question. Any dorm, building, or dining hall you'd like to give a shout out to?
So, for those that don't know, I was also a resident assistant at Miami University for 3 years. One of those years I was in Ogden, and the other 2 years I was in Stanton. Shout out to Daisy Rodriguez and Darius Twitty, my former RDs. And I would say Ogden Hall, which I believe
Interesting.
currently is offline, but
Oh, okay.
they were doing some renovating. I don't know if they still are, but I liked it because all I had to do was come from my room downstairs,
That's
and
so
boom, there was a
true.
dining hall. So I thought that was easy.
We're coming up to the end of the episode. If people want to stay connected with you, see all the awesome things you're doing, how, like, this is just your minute for self promotion. How can people, whatever you want to promote, whether it's your LinkedIn, Instagram, you tell the listeners.
Yeah. Well, you can follow me on all of the things, right? So I'm Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. You can find me on all those platforms. Even MySpace. No, that MySpace isn't that official anymore. But it's all Vada Stephens the second. So that's how you can stay connected with me. I'm very active on social media. I always tell people you can't recreate history, so everything must be captured.
I love it. And for our listeners, in our podcast description, we will have Veda's social links so you can easily click the description and get right onto those profiles and follow the amazing work he does. But Veda, thank you so much for coming in today and just sharing your experiences, dare I say, sharing your lifestyle with us.
Yeah,
And more importantly, just thank you for all the important work you're doing. And I know you probably hear it plenty of times, but you definitely are making a world a better place. And I mean, I am no Miami ambassador, but I know Miami is so proud of you. So thank you for your time
thank you.
today.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's a wrap on We Went to Miami. Like what you heard? Share it, sub it, hype it up. Till next time, love and honor.